Hello again. Thank you for coming back to enjoy some more chess. I'm going to try out a different board today. It looks like my sound is off. E4. Let's see how he deals with Alekhines. Been trying out Alekhines a little bit more. I used to play it a lot. Switched back to the Sicilian because it's a bit more solid. Positionally at least. Very tactical, but we get a 4 pawns attack. I very much enjoy playing against the 4 pawns attack because it's super sharp, very tactical, ambitious. White's going for a lot with a huge center. So taking here is book, and then there's a couple different lines that I know I've essayed, not essayed, maybe that's a strong word, but I know I have played this line in a video previously. C5 is a fun line to play. Additionally, I mean, it's okay to just go ahead and prepare to fianchetto the bishop. Also, I'm gonna play my favorite line here, though. It tends to provoke this, and I can challenge it with e6, which opens up my queen to this diagonal. And I don't know how many times people forget this, that this check is pretty devastating. And it's a common trap that people fall into. But standard will be just to protect the center with one of the knights, either knight, in which case I'll take in the center. And white will have these 2 advanced pawns, which seem to cramp my position a lot. But I'm able to usually mount a pretty good attack on them because they're so far overextended that it can become very difficult for white to keep pressure or keep defense. I'm assuming he's figured out the trap here and he's not going to push. So he does develop the knight and takes back. And then this move, c4, is critical. I've got to keep the bishop at bay, gain a little bit more space myself on the queen side to counter this big space that white has in the center. Also opens up my own bishop to get into the game. So we're in for a bit of a fight here. Classic man from the United States. I've never played, and he's been on for a couple years now. It's always fun to run across people that I have played in the past. I know there's such a huge player base on chess.com that it doesn't happen as frequently as it used to, but it is kind of fun to go back and review games I've played against opponents previously. Okay, so he's going to build up his center. I can develop. I think I want to take this dark square diagonal and discourage him from castling kingside. If I go there, does that run into knight here? No, I can trade off the knight. Check with the queen. But then I just attack. That hangs this pawn, though. Maybe pinning the knight first is an idea, and piling up on this pawn. I think that's a good idea. think I'm going to do that. And now I'm threatening to win this pawn outright. So he generally will push it, which frees up the natural developing square for my knight. And this is an extremely, scary pawn chain to look at if you're not practiced in this system, because to have a pawn, an anchored pawn on d6, but the bishop, queen, I'm going to get a rook over. It doesn't really pose a huge threat until the end game, so I want to keep pieces on the board, and um, unless I can win one of the two pawns, and then I'm doing very well if I can win even one of those two pawns. But as long as they have the potential to protect each other, they're a bit dangerous. And White's going to have a hard time figuring out where he wants to put his king. So the computer will tell you that this is just great for White. I think Black has a, significant disadvantage according to the engine, but it's practically very difficult for White to play. So I'm imagining he wants to break the pin. Um, Maybe he wants to develop the light square bishop to get castled. But either one of those runs into bishop takes and queen takes pawn. Although queen takes queen and knight takes queen hangs this pawn. So that's something to look at. Material stays equal, and White will have this isolated e pawn that kind of, oh, okay, he takes the pawn. Because if I take with the knight, it frees up this check. So that's interesting. Um, it's very interesting. So can I just go ahead and pin the other knight? If I pin the other knight, I don't know that I've seen this move before. Um, Pinning the other knight, castles, takes. What if I just castle myself and threaten to remove myself from the check? So now the bishop's hanging and I'm threatening the pawn as well. You retreat the bishop. Yeah, okay. So I'm tempted to drop back and prevent castling. I'm down a pawn, but if his king's in the middle of the board, I've still got a very good fight. Um, so that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prevent castling. Now he can come here, attack the bishop, and I can just give a check, and I guess we can dance for a minute, but that takes the defense off this pawn. a defender, although there's still two more. So perhaps developing my light square bishop was more in order. He can threaten. Oh, he brings the queen. That's a curious move. What is that about? Lifting the queen to reposition the bishop and threaten this. Is that what that's about? Can weaken my dark squares and allow this bishop to come in here. This queen here also prepares the bishop coming out here. He's got a very nice defense against my pet opening here. This is starting to feel a little uncomfortable for me because he's getting his pieces out, coordinating them quite well. And I've still got an undeveloped queen side over here, but no need to panic just yet. I think I've still got some pretty good play. Just a matter of coordination. Got this knight development now as the queen is hanging and the pawn's pinned, but he's going to bring his bishop and threaten mate, and that defends the queen. And I can't move the knight and defend mate. So that's not as good. I've also got this, but that creates two passed pawns, two connected passed pawns, and that's like he's already got one. Maybe I do push the G pawn and create an anchor for this. Bring my bishop out here. I think that's probably my best option. Maybe queen here attacking, but then maybe just queen to e7 defending the bishop. Knight here to pile up on the bishop. If it goes knight there first, then I can pin it. So, he very much wants to develop this dark square bishop as well. Why not just attack the queen? In which case, maybe I counterattack the queen. He attacks my queen. I attack his queen. And we just trade queens. But then maybe he attacks the bishop. Bishop here. Bishop to f5, attacking the queen. Queen b5, attacking the bishop, and my queen is still hanging. So then I'd have to defend the queen, or defend the bishop, and well, maybe D6, attacking the queen again. Then I bring it up to the light squares. And I've severely weakened my dark squares around the king. Bishop here and here might be a bit problematic. My opponent's taking his time and thinking about moves. I guess I took 2.5 minutes on that last move, G6. There's a lot to think about in this position, how I'm going to kind of get these queenside pieces developed with some tempo. I'm expecting him to want to develop the bishop. If he does that, I mean, potentially I could just go here and defend and get my queen out of the way. But then this and this might run into bishop here attacking the queen, and that looks, I guess the knight's here, the knight's defending. I'm not really afraid of trading pieces because I'll be able to equalize, I think, okay. I prefer to keep pieces on the board, but I am playing black, so equalize first and then attack. I mean, the bishop's the last piece to develop. I think getting that out is just natural and it's just a matter of where. And he really only has, you know, I guess he has 4 options, but f4 doesn't, it defends the pawn. Seems a little passive. G5 attacks the queen, provokes a move. It's a forcing move. Um, H6 is also a pretty forcing move, attacking the rook. So let's say he attacks the queen. My candidates are queen to c6 to c7 or bishop to f5. And I might be inclined to play bishop f5 because trading pieces doesn't seem all that bad. Kind of talking myself into trading, even though it lessens the chances for attack. That's an area of my game that I can improve, is not always just lashing out and attacking. Okay, he decides to challenge my bishop because he doesn't like castling, but doesn't it? Oh no, it doesn't give me the pawn because the knight and the bishop still guard right here. What about knight here now? Attacking the queen. Bishop comes back. There's no more mate threat, so I have this queen and bishop fork with knight to b4. Why not just get the bishop? Well, that hangs the bishop. So that's why. That's a really good reason why not to, because I just lose the bishop. Um, What about counterattacking the queen and having the queen move and then trading? If I trade right now, queen takes back. It's my move. If I attack, queen moves, bishop takes, queen takes. It's my move. It's the same position, but I have a piece out here. So let's just take advantage of our tempo and get our piece out. Gives another square for my queen to go to defend the bishop if I want to do that as well. Bring the knight out to a6 to defend the bishop also. Hmm. I might, I don't know. Opponent's down to 4.5 minutes, so maybe we can use the clock as a piece here and just wear down our opponent on time so he starts making poor decisions. Valid option, valid strategy. Now how about pinning the knight? Again, that allows him to castle kingside. I think getting my other knight out is kind of necessary. I really need to get my pieces developed. I have this move and I have this move. Both defend the bishop. One limits my light square bishop scope, but I'm not in any real danger of getting it trapped yet. Here, maybe there's an e6 push with takes. There's a discovery on the king. Which looks bad, which looks kind of very bad. And I think for that reason, I'm going to defend it this way. So I can get my rook out. Of course, he may still have this. Uh, takes, and there's a threat of a discovered attack. So I'd need to move my king up on the dark squares. And I don't have a lot of defense around here. All my pieces are over here, playing with light square bishop and a rook around my king. So I'm kind of walking a tightrope here. Although if he brings the knight here, I'm attacking the light square bishop. I don't think he wants to do that. I think maybe just castling. to get his king out of the center. Because I have chances as long as his king are in the center. I don't think it's an immediate, like, I still have a lot of work to do, but 8 castles. Okay. So get our rook in the game. Try to keep him on move so that he's got to use his time. Okay, I'm going to move this rook. I don't want to move that rook because it's protecting this. He's unpinned his bishop. So let's trade the piece. Let's get his bishop off the board and bring our knight toward the center. Threaten this to trade more pieces. If I can get all the pieces off the board, I mean, if I imagine a position with all of the pieces off the board, just kings and pawns, my king is going to be able to get up in here. Um, okay. We threaten the rook, he just lifts it, and then what? I think I can take, well, now that my bishop is attacked, I need the knight defending the bishop. Although I'll be threatening the rook. So can I take, hang my bishop and threaten the rook? No, because he can bring the rook over to attack the bishop as well. I can bring the knight back and give up 2 minors for the rook. I don't know how much I like that, though. Because these pawns are pretty advanced, and my rooks are going to be a challenge for just my rooks to stop them. I'll be left with a knight and queen, but okay. I'm approaching 5 minutes. Opponent's under 2. So what are my options here? To go through with that takes, he has the option to just take. He's not forced to allow. Knight takes, rook attacks. I can retreat the bishop. I don't have to bring it back and give up 2 minors. So you can take and threaten this pawn. But I can block his attack on the pawn and keep the rook off of this F file. Now I am threatening this pawn. If he pushes b4, I can come back to c4. So I think maybe he pushes. Minute and 15 seconds. I'm feeling the pressure. I think black definitely has a worse position here, but I knew that going into, playing this line. I think white still has a very dominant position, but he's got himself in time pressure, and that might give me some opportunities here. It's not like one. White does not have a winning position, I don't think, but ooh, that's a pretty good move. That is a pretty good move. If I take, he takes with the knight, forking. If I take the pawn, attacking the queen, he takes with check. And I think I have to give up that pawn. Although he's threatening this. Although with the knight here, he's not. So I take the pawn and attack the queen because it protects this fork. And now he can take with check, but I just take with the rook, and he can take. I take. He checks and double attacks my knight. Ouch. Maybe I don't take. Can I get away with not taking? He takes, and I lift the king because I lose a piece otherwise, I think. And if I lift the king, he checks and attacks the knight. Okay, I gotta work this out. I play king g7, queen e5 check, knight back blocks, the queen and the rook attack, but the king and the queen defend. So I don't take it. Now I can take the pawn. Or can I? He's going to attack. Oh, he's got the fork. He's got the royal fork. Ah, good game, friend. Oh, he didn't commit to the royal fork. He's going to hang his piece. Want me to step away. Oh, if I survive this, it is strictly for the time pressure. He had the royal fork with seconds left, and if I win this, it is merely by the time pressure, because white should have an overwhelming position. Should have had an overwhelming position. Now I just take the pawn. Knight's pinned. So let's unpin. That's okay. I think that hangs a piece, but he timed out. Oh, I got quite fortunate there with the it says black is up. It says black is way up. I think I was feeling the pressure there as well because his attack was looking pretty ferocious, but he hung the piece, and I think that might have been where he gave me the edge. Um, let's look at the game review. Exciting game. I love playing that line. It's not a Yeah, he blundered and it was kind of equal. But he took a big edge. He had the edge throughout most of the game. But he blundered and allowed me a big advantage, which I wasn't feeling because of the swarming attack. One blunder on my part, and I think maybe there should have been a blunder on his, but I blundered and then he blundered me back the edge. Anyway, this line of Alekhines, I love playing it. It's so fun. This is all book, even though the evaluation is 1.5 for white. This is just a fun line to play because, like I said, practically speaking, it is a very difficult line. So this was an inaccuracy on white's part, and I'm not going to go into. We both played the opening exceptionally. Um, but like an 18 and a 1700, so we were kind of playing at our level. The bishop pin was the good move. And this was, I was wondering, it's inaccurate to take the pawn, and I couldn't figure out in the moment why. Do I take the pawn and allow him the check, picking up the bishop, and then do what with my knight? Okay, so this was a mistake, castling. Let's retry that. And I imagine it wants me to do this. This is also a mistake to take. But we shouldn't take the bishop. We shouldn't castle. What other moves was I thinking about here? Taking the knight. Was that an option? Or developing a piece? Pinning the other knight. I think that was on my radar, pinning the other knight. Let's examine that. Blunder. Blunder, because it's got to be taking the knight. Okay, so taking the knight. And black takes back, or white takes back, and then black plays knight takes c4, and queen e4 check, and probably the bishop. Yeah, knight d7. It wants me to go knight d7. Interesting. Knight d7, queen takes c4, and then knight b6. It wants me to go back to b6 with a knight, threatening these two. Interesting. back to the review. Castling was a miss. White has a 2.5 edge here. And I give him a 3.4 with this fiend cutout idea. It's still a good move, but what else do I do here? This was a kind of a conundrum for me because I mean he's starting to come here and threaten mate. I suppose I could block the mate after the fact. Maybe just develop the knight to the middle of the board. It's a good move, but centralize the rook. Interesting. It's a hard decision to have to leave that f7 pawn when the bishop's on this diagonal here. Because that's a weak square and he's got the f file open, and that'd have been a hard move to make. But in hindsight, looking at this e pawn push, he's going to break open the file there with an e pawn push. So I guess it makes sense. That was the best move. Also the best move, attacking the queen. This one was a good one. Aside from the knight development, I was looking at developing the knight here, which I felt like was a mistake, but that's the best move. So what do I do against this? Queen e7. He wants me to just sack the knight and go queen e7. White still has a huge edge, 4 points up, but that's my best move. So I'm going to win the bishop if he takes the knight. Okay. Back to the review. And he gets castled. It's best to take the bishop. Oh, that bishop move was the best move too. Good. This was an error. Okay. Not a good plan here. But in his time pressure, I felt like it was something I needed to do. What do I do here instead? Just retreat the bishop? Do I need to move the bishop at all? I don't think I need to. Maybe get the queen out. That doesn't look good because this is going to be a big problem. What do I do here instead? Hmm. Maybe it's still this. Maybe it's still the rook move. It's good. It's still a good move. Attack the queen. And okay, that's defended by the bishop. Get my knights towards the center. Activate my knights. That's a good move. Still trades pieces. That is a good move. Okay. So I do this. I felt like that was a stronger move than it's given credit for. What's the best move here? For white, just this one. Or knight here. I think knight here was incredibly strong. but it's inaccurate. Just bring the queen, followed by the rook, and this threat is yeah, that threat is a big problem. I don't think I can recover from that if he finds it, which he could have easily found, but the time pressure again. I think he was starting to panic because of the time. He took, and that was a mistake. It wanted me to take. Did it want me to take? Yeah, I would have to take otherwise. Thinks I should have taken. I felt like I lost a piece here though, because what happens here? Queen e6, queen d7, abandoning the knight. But then the knight comes in. Oh, d7, not e7, because the knight comes in. d7, and queen takes d5. And I'm down a piece. But, I mean, that's reflected in the eval bar. I guess this is just where it materially realizes. So back to review. Not taking was a mistake, but it allowed me to. It's up 8 points. 8 points. White is crushing me here, and that was the big miss because he has the royal fork right here, and he just misses it. So I'm very fortunate to have come out on top of this game. Very, very fortunate because this is just game over here, and I missed it. And now black has the edge. But that was a blunder, and I gave the edge up. What to do instead? Take. Just take the pawn. Yeah. Yep. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a fun game to play, even though it wasn't the highest of qualities. It was still fun, and I love playing that line. I'm going to continue playing that line, even though it's not necessarily the best. There are grandmasters that played it. I think Alexander Shevelov, maybe, American GM champions that line. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back and watch some more chess.